And while we're on this topic of like influencers and being more authentic and real, I did want to kind of pick your brain since this time of the pandemic. Have you seen a shift in marketing for events or I guess brands in general or in response to COVID? Have you seen a shift in marketing strategies that we should kind of focus on?
Definitely. And a lot of that is because of the shift to virtual, right? So
Mhm.
I think the shift, first of all, it was, okay, now everything has to be virtual. And what does that look like? And to an extent, I think in the beginning, there was a lot of just, beat you over the head with it type marketing, which has its place. But then with the proliferation of how many virtual events there were, I mean, I can remember weeks where I would get invited to 5 to 10 very good events, within a week. But the reality is who's going to be able to attend all those
Yeah.
when all of our lives are now virtual? So I think in terms of virtual, there had to be a subtle shift over time where the marketing got better. And it wasn't just, put any old thing you could together and market it because we can't do things in person. I think the shift became that you had to be a little bit savvier in terms of how you're reaching out to people. And, from personal experience, I feel that people learned quickly that even with the virtual event, there had to be an engagement component. It couldn't just be, a lecture. There's of course exceptions, but if you're just talking at people, it gets boring. If there's an engagement, whether it's some sort of networking component or a Q&A or, some sort of interactive event that is still virtual, I think those were some of the ones that were most successful. And, I think it's great for marketers to keep that in mind, even as we continue to have virtual events going forward. An example I can think of is that I belong to the USC Alumni Entrepreneurs Network.
Mhm.
And we just partnered just a few weeks ago with the USC Young Alumni and In Good Taste Wines to do a virtual wine tasting. And it was a really fun event because we really didn't talk about networking or work or anything like that. We just got a bunch of people together and, the host talked us through all these wines and we tasted together and commented and laughed together. And it was just a really great way to bring these groups together and have a good time, even though it was entirely virtual.
Yeah.
So I think, the engagement and the community part of it is still going to be very critical as we go forward. And that needs to be emphasized. And I think in terms of, in-person events, as they come back more and more, the micro events and whatnot, I think it's great. It's just, we need to be safe. We need to be wearing masks. We need to be outdoors. The weather's getting better. We still have to just take precautions because nobody wants to be on the hook for the person who got everybody sick. We still need to just be smart and responsible and do the most good for the most people. But, that being said, I think people, again, are so hungry for these interactions that, you could have a very simplistic, small pop-up event with just music. I mean, live music would be great, but it could just be music, DJs, whatever. Little giveaways, maybe some sort of prepackaged or pre-portioned snack or drink, as long as you're, providing it safely. At the end of the day, the surprise and delight never gets old. People appreciate that unexpected extra or that way of, coming together. So as long as you've always got the consumer in mind, I really think, you kind of can't go wrong.
Yeah. And it's going to have a big impact because we're so isolated right now. Even we might be talking to people all day, but we're talking to people through our computers, through our phones. So just something, in person or some sort of thing that resembles a small event is really going to catch someone's attention and make them stop. And then, like you said, with virtual events, it's hard to make it not feel like work now or make it not feel like, I have another meeting, because it's online. It resembles a Zoom call. We don't want to do that. So wine tasting sounds great.
It was more fun than I thought it would be. I just think you have to give something like, my barometer is always would I do this? Would I sign up for this? Would I be entertained by this? And, maybe I'm not the perfect example, but nonetheless, it gives you an idea because it's just, you can't ask people to sit through another Zoom call. You've got to get more than that.
And they got to be doing something. They can't just be sitting there watching you.
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
engagement. So yeah, it's all about creativity and thinking, like you said, what would you want? How would you want to jump on another Zoom call, or would you want something else? Maybe something delivered to your door that can go along with the
Yeah,
event. That would be fun. Yeah.
absolutely.